Hello everybody, welcome to Mistakes Were Made. Today we are going to do our budget recap for the first half of the month, so the 1st through the 15th of July. We have just about finished, well not just about, we have finished that pay period. We're actually through the first week of the next pay period, so we are ready to do our recap. I am going to be doing things just a little bit differently today. I am just going to note the numbers down, not going to do the calculations with the calculator. I've got my notes to the side, so I'm hoping that that will speed the process up just a little bit. Because I am a little bit tired. We will kind of get into, how this past week has gone after we're all done with the number things. The other issue is, if you happen to notice that my nails have the garden French manicure, I do apologize, but I had to wait until it was a little bit cooler so that we could pick as many of the beans that we have ready to go. And my goal is to be able to can some spicy dilled beans. I am not sure if I'm going to be able to do that tomorrow because I did go to the store and they had no dill. Not a lick of dill. Now, I'd run into this problem before and we bought up some dill and put it in the freezer. Our freezer is a mess, the chest freezer, so I am going to have to go hunting around and hopefully be able to find some of that because I really wanted to be able to use these beans for the dilled bean process. If I can't find it though, I can't hold on to them forever, so we may just end up blanching them and then getting them dried and then putting them into the freezer so that we can have them at another time and just for regular eating. So anyway, that is my precursor to this. Let me zoom in so we can get started. All right, and I'm not really anticipating a huge difference in things going down the pipeline here. Our income was almost exactly as anticipated. So I'm just going through here to copy numbers. The only difference is we did have a surprise sale on Etsy. And so of course that makes a difference there. Also, our buffer rollover ended up being $200.32 instead of the $200.47. So all told, that brings our total to $4,003.20. Now, similarly, for our bills, our kind of recurring monthly costs, very slight changes. The weirdo thing that my mortgage company does, knocking a penny off. Everything else here is the same until we got to the water bill, which actually was $136.55. Oops, that's a 5. Instead of being, under that 135 mark. Now, nothing from the bill that I saw made me feel like the new rates had applied. So I'm really thinking we're going to see that rate increase on the August bill, which, as it would happen in the last couple of weeks, so during July, we have actually ramped up our watering far more than we had in June. So I expect that we're going to see far more water usage, which of course will mean a higher bill just in and of itself, but then tack on that rate increase and yay, more money out the door. But that's okay. It is worth it for the garden, at least in my opinion. So, you got to pay for the things that you enjoy. When we add all of that together, it comes to $1,632.80, which will leave us with a remainder of $2,370.40. Again, if you hear my voice going in and out, it is because I am looking at my notes. For this month, we only have the buffer rollover amount. So we can go ahead and do the math there, 2170.40. And then, again, this is a theme for, for today. We don't have any unexpected costs. Everything that did come around that we needed to put money into that falls into these categories was completely covered by the money in the envelopes, which actually is kind of a surprise because, as I mentioned during our budget with me for the second pay period of July, we did have our appointment with Murphy, which I'm still irritated about because we made no progress and yet it cost us an arm and a leg. But that arm and leg were in the cash envelopes, so you know we stayed within our means. I think it knocked us down to like $18 left in there, so it is what it is. And why am I saying 11 o'clock? This is $11. Ignore that. Oh my goodness, 125 and the 20, and that means we have the 701 here, and that leaves us, as far as income is concerned, with $1469.40. Okay, so we'll $1469.40. And then we've got my spending. Again, this pay period, I spent like 27 something, 28 something. I'm just gonna round. I have $1 floating around somewhere, $1 and something floating around, and then the change went into the change bucket. So it's just easier this way. So that puts us at $1339.40, and then our $100 transfer that we do for long-term goals brings us down to $1339.40. So we still ended up adding a little bit mainly because of that sale on Etsy to what our expectations were based on the budget with me, which is fantastic. So how did we divvy that up? What does that mean as far as changes, if any, to the numbers we had anticipated? The mortgage, we were able to do a $402 principal payment. Emergency fund went up by $1, so it got $268. Same thing for the long-term goals, $268. The sinking fund situation, no change. It was still at $268, which means we have $67 allocated for the car fund, health, house, and pets. We have not divvied that out just yet. I'm going to be stuffing the envelopes later, maybe tomorrow. It really kind of depends on if I'm able to carve out time, find dill, and carve out time to do my spicy dilled beans tomorrow or not. I might be able to do both of them tomorrow. It just, who knows? We'll have to see how the day goes and how much noise I'm comfortable making when Mr. M's sleeping and all that. The fun category ended up with $133. And then, of course, there was a little bit of a difference for the rollover. It is at 40 cents instead of the 32. All right, so fantastic. No shame with these numbers whatsoever. Very, very happy about that. I would have been happy with these numbers as well. But now we are going to move on to looking at kind of the overall look-see for our big ticket items for this first pay period. And you know what? Well, you don't need to, well, let's see, let's try this. Da-da. There you go. All right, so first item is the emergency fund. We ended last month with $3,635.98 in the emergency fund. Now, if you are new to the channel or you haven't watched very many videos, I just wanted to take a moment to kind of differentiate. This emergency fund is separate and different from the job loss fund. The job loss fund was created very specifically to cover costs while I had no income or little income because of being laid off. It is a completely different chunk of money, and it may or may not at some point, if we ever get to a place where we feel a little bit more job secure, it might get infused into the emergency fund. It is there to be a absolute last resort emergency fund if something super terrible and catastrophic came through and we needed that money, but we really want to hold on to it for things related to job issues. Fingers crossed, there are no more job issues to be worried about, but it's staying there and it is different than the emergency fund. Okay. So, with all that said, at the end of this pay period, the 1st through the 15th, we are now at $3,904.01. Now I have these little percentages here because I thought it was kind of interesting. Our main goal for this first level of emergency, or I think it's second level of emergency fund, is $6,000. We are 65% of the way there. Our overall massive goal of $72,000, which is the equivalent of $6,000 per month for a year. So a year's worth of our expenses based on the budget that we have now, that $5,900 budget that we keep. We are 5% towards that goal. So I'm very excited about that. Every little step that we're making towards all of these goals, whether it's a baby step or a big lunge, they're great because we are making progress, and that is what is important. All right, next one is the long-term goals. We ended last month at $3,546, and we are currently at $3,914. Of course, $2,500 of that is specifically allocated for yard cleanup. The rest, the $1,414 is kind of an up in the air amount. It might be needed for yard cleanup. If it's not, then it'll go towards whatever our next goal is. We are seesawing between the carport and the air conditioning being the next important thing to do. Right now, air conditioning is winning a little bit because it's so hot. And we're definitely feeling the effects of the lack of having our central air working as far as the AC part of it is concerned. But at the same time, the carport, it is very important. It is actively, breaking down when we have windstorms and things like that. It is there to protect our cars. And if something were to happen, we could see greater impact as far as financially inconvenience and just devastation because a car is damaged or totaled if something were to happen with that structure. I don't want to make it seem like it's like swaying in the winds or anything like that. No, our biggest issue right now are the panels, the corrugated panels that are on the top. After so many years of being up there have become brittle, and so they're starting to move and shift, and in some cases they are falling or getting blown off, which could damage a car depending on how or where it lands. But I feel like it's not like a huge concern. We're not actively like, oh my gosh, it's going to tilt and fall any day now, but it's more prescient of an issue, really, than the air conditioning, because obviously we have been living many, many years without the air conditioning working. And it's really only a big deal during the summer for, like 3 or 4 months. So yeah, anyway, either way, both of those, as we have estimated, again, we are not at all experts, have no construction, remodeling, or any kind of experience, under our belts. So our estimates may be really, really high. They might be really, really low. But both of those are in our higher tier estimate items, with the central air issue being $15,000 and our guesstimate for the carport being $8,000. Again, could be really off on those. At some point, we will have folks come through and give us actual bids so we know what we're working with, but we need to deal with the yard cleanup first, and that is a Mr. M requirement, and I have poked him again to remind him, hey, this is your job. So we'll see what happens. Next, we do have the mortgage. This is my pride and joy, the one that I am looking at so much closely than anything else, because I just want us to get out from under this mortgage as soon as possible. But I do have, a little bit of a grasp on reality. I know it's not going to be anytime soon, but sooner, better than later is good enough. All right, so we ended the last pay period at $228,139.70. And as of the end of this current pay period, after the 15th, we are now at $227,737.70. Lots of sevens there for anybody who finds sevens particularly lucky. There you go. Maybe that's the sign of some good coming your way. I am, of course, always excited to see when we get down into the next 1,000 level, and when we get out under 225,000, I think that will be a really amazing checkpoint or milestone as well. So I'm happy to see this. Every little penny that we can drop this makes me happy as well. So there we are. That's what we are looking at as far as the financials for this particular pay period, where we've landed at the end, and our jumping off points for the current pay period that we're in for the end of July. Now then, I am not sure if this process, what I did, didn't really save us all that much time, everything considering. We're 18 minutes in, but I don't know if that's what we're going to be doing going forward. As I kind of discussed about this new job, I am not entirely sure what the impacts of it will be on the channel. I am going to do my absolute best to try and stay timely with things. Some folks made the suggestion, if want to knock a video out, maybe not do the cash stuffing videos. And I think at least for this particular pay period, I am going to take that advice. I am not going to film the cash stuffing. I will take the the trackers from that, and when we do the recap for the end of July, so we're kind of looking at the month as a whole at that point, then I will make sure I'll try to make sure, I better say that just in case I forget. I'll try to make sure to pull those trackers for the yard cleanup and the mortgage, so that we have those visuals and I can keep up with that process with you guys in coloring in the spaces. We'll see how it goes. And that's not to say that it, maybe in a couple of weeks I will have settled in just a little bit more and gotten a better handle, because this is the first week that I have worked a full-time schedule. And so, it is going to be a time of transition for sure. On that note, there are a couple of things. One where I'm a little bit like, what's going on here? And so for that one, my understanding based on the interview that I had was that the company had two different pay scales, one for part-time, one for full-time. And I did reach out to my manager just to verify that understanding was correct. She did, say, yes, your new pay is going to be X. And I'd also asked, whether my time as a part-time employee is counted as part of the kind of wait period for benefits, or if I don't get to count that time and it's only from the date that I start as full-time, then I have to wait, 30, 60, 90, whatever it is, before I can claim benefits at that point. And she had thought that, yes, the day that I got hired for part-time, all of that time should count towards the benefit wait period, but she was going to reach out to HR just to verify. But she did definitely verify that, yes, I should be getting this higher rate. Well, the way that they have us track our time, I don't know if any of you in your jobs are familiar with Dayforce, but we use Dayforce. And so, you have a thing, you can go clock in, you can clock out for break, and back in, clock out for lunch, back in, all of that, It has a thing where, you can go and look and see what your hours are for a particular day and the pay that you are supposed to be getting for that. Now, I will say, this is the first time I ever used Dayforce, so I don't know if that's something specific to this company, what they decided was going to be available, or if that's just, kind of what is available to anybody that utilizes this. But at least for us, I can go and click on pay and see, okay, last night I did 8 hours, and according to their documents, that is 8 hours times X, so I get Y. I've earned Y for this particular night. Well, I was looking at that for the 14th and 15th because that was still in the old pay period, the first pay period, because this company follows this timeline. 1st through 15th is a pay period. 16th through the end of the end of the month is a pay period. So I was looking at that 14th and 15th because those are the last 2 days of that particular pay period, to see how much it was calculating, because it also coincided with me starting full time. And lo and behold, according to the calculations, it's being calculated at that part-time level. So I was a little concerned because I'm like, well, why is that happening if I'm full time? And so I was keeping an eye on it as we went through the week, and still by the end of the week, and including, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, which is now into the new pay period, it's still calculating at the part-time rate. So not only that, but I can tell that they've already cut a check because there is money pending into our account, and it is based on that lower amount. I am, of course, going to double check and get into Dayforce. I don't know if I'll do it tonight, but maybe tomorrow, just to make sure that I'm not crazy and that they've, taken a whole lot more out in taxes than I would have expected. But everything is indicating that I'm being paid at the part-time rate. So on Monday, I'm going to have to reach out to my manager again and be like, hey, so is there some kind of delay? Is there an issue with my status being updated from part-time to full-time? is there going to be a different start date for that than what I had indicated? Because she had given me the okay. She's like, yeah, whenever you want to start, doing full time, you go ahead. And I chose the 14th on purpose. But if it was going to be a case of HR actually needs 2 weeks in order to be ready to go, then I might have waited and said, okay, I'll make the 1st of August my first day that I work full time. But bottom line is that I want to get reassured that the difference between the part-time and full-time pay is going to make it onto a paycheck somewhere. Unless they tell me, hey, sorry, but your actual full-time status isn't going to be effective until X date, which I'm not sure how I feel about that exactly. If it's like it starts this Monday, so I have essentially worked full-time hours, including overtime at part-time pay for this past week. It is what it is. I wouldn't love that. I don't know legally if that's something that they could then do, because I was working under the impression of something happening and I wouldn't have worked overtime or those extra hours. Well, I might have worked the 8 hours, but I probably wouldn't have worked the overtime knowing that I wasn't going to get the full-time pay. Or if it's just they are slow and haven't gotten things updated, and it will be backdated to the 14th, and thus my next paycheck will have a little bit extra because, I'd been shortchanged. I don't know. Not ever a fan when things are messing with my money. I feel like I'm a fairly laid back person about things. It doesn't take a lot to rile me up. I try to go with the flow. I'm not really into being confrontational and things like that either. But when my back gets up, it gets up, and then I escalate and things like that. And the fastest way to ruin my peace is to mess with my money. So we'll see. I am trying to keep an open mind about the situation, but I'll be honest, just with everything that has happened with the previous job, the experiences that I've had with the job hunting, the anecdotal things that I've been seeing just on YouTube and things like that. And then of course my friends and, close people that are close to me's real life experiences with companies in the last year and a half, even longer than that, probably 4 years. I'm pretty jaded and very, I don't want to say very, but pretty cynical at this point. I definitely had a very naive, what am I thinking of? Just not relationship, but expectation of companies, based, kind of on that fairy tale ideal of a company is going to take care of you if you take care of the company, which maybe that was true way back when. I think a lot of things are looked at with rose-colored glasses when you look to the past. So I don't know if that's truly was the case. But I've had that kind of mentality about work, that the work that I do is important and I am going to give my all because I want the company to do well, and then I expect the company to do well by me. And for the most part, I have to say, that has been my experience. I have given what I have to give. I've gone above and beyond in a lot of cases, and I have felt that I have been fairly compensated and, good things have come my way. I know that is not the experience of everybody, so I don't say that as this is the expectation, but that's kind of just the mindset I've always been in. And I don't know, I'm babbling. See, I'm making this video longer than it needs to be. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with the money thing, but that's one of the quickest ways to get my back up. I have survived my first week of unemployment, of overtime. My friend was pretty spot on when he said averaging 1 to 2 hours per day. The first 3 days we were a little shy of 2 hours of overtime. Then the fourth day, so Thursday, we were just shy of 3 hours of overtime. And then Friday, yesterday, we did, what was it? Like 2.5 hours of overtime. Yeah. So all told for the week, I have about a little over 11 hours of overtime that I have worked. I'm anticipating that we're probably going to see similar types of numbers at least until maybe September, because this is the summer. People are going to be taking time off, things like that. When I was talking to my friend, I did ask him, I was like, so do you think they're going to be hiring more people since we are still doing overtime, and to me, a significant amount? And he's like, I'm really not sure. I know some of it is because people are out. So he was thinking if the people that were out had actually been working, we probably would have been only working, maybe 30 minutes of overtime to maybe an hour on some of those days. So, we do have a fair number of newer people. I don't remember how many of them are working part-time as well. So as folks develop, myself included, presumably would be going faster and getting more work done. So maybe we are at that right size for the volume of work that is coming in. I guess we'll just see. All right, so that is that. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, things like that, please note them down below. I don't anticipate, except for this money thing, that I'll have, really any more complaining fests or, discussions of my disappointment, things like that. It is what it is. Life has thrown what it is going to throw at us. We know what we're up against. We are waiting to see how things play out for Mr. M's job situation. I am incredibly happy that I am working. I am working full time, and I am working at a very decent pay rate. Eventually, I will have some healthcare benefits that will kick in, whether I do have stuff that comes out of my paycheck form or not. I think it's going to be a net positive. I will have the opportunity to start to go for a 401k as well. And so the positives are much higher than the negatives. And I don't think I really portrayed that very well when I did my first video, mostly because I was still kind of feeling my feelings about the things that aren't 100%. But I have moved on from that for the most part, and I am going to be looking at what is positive and going with that. And I am excited to see how financially this job will benefit us, because as you guys know, we have a lot of goals that we want to meet. We have a lot of things we need to do around the house that are expensive, and we need to be putting money towards our future and retirement as well. And so hopefully we will get to a place where things settle out and we will be able to really push towards all of those goals. So thank you very much for sticking with me. As always, like I said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just want to say hi, note that down below in the comment section, and I hope we will see you in the next one. Bye for now.